Yes. Good afternoon. As I've already been introduced, coming from the African Commission on Nuclear Energy, and the topic of my discussion this afternoon is benchmarking education and skills development programs in Africa. What is the role of AFCONE? If I can sort of state that role in a general way, I would say that our role is in guiding our member states or our state partners in the right direction in terms of acquiring the right types of skills and competences to support their nuclear programs, to support their nuclear activities. But we can only do this within the framework of our mandate. We don't interfere in the mandates of other organizations. So what is our mandate? Our mandate includes non-proliferation and disarmament, promoting cooperation among African states and cooperation between African states and external entities on the development of their nuclear programs, promoting civil applications of nuclear energy in Africa, ensuring that nuclear activities in Africa abide by nuclear security and nuclear safety norms. And above all, we want to advance the universalization of the treaty under which we are operating, which is the African Nuclear Weapons Free Zone Treaty, the Treaty of Pelindaba. Regarding universalization, only 44 out of the 55 countries in Africa are currently party to the Treaty of Pelindaba. So we benchmark universalization by speaking with those countries that are already party to understand their government processes that enabled them to proceed from signature to ratification, or that enabled them to accede directly to the treaty without signature. And once we inform ourselves about the experience of countries that are party, we share that experience with those countries that are yet to ratify in order to sort of give them ideas that they could implement in their countries to become party to the Treaty of Pelindaba. We've been speaking the last few days about African countries introducing nuclear power in their electricity mixes. Yesterday at the meeting with the President, we saw some graduates introduced to the President, and I could see that the government officials were very proud to introduce these graduates. I don't know the extent of sort of domestic capacity building here in preparation for the nuclear power plant that is coming, but it struck me that one doesn't need so many PhDs or engineers and highly educated scientists to run a nuclear power plant. But one does need hundreds of technicians, plumbers, certified electricians, joiners. These types of skills are the skills that are essential, extremely essential in running a nuclear power plant. And there was no mention of whether these types of skills are being developed. I know cases of nuclear power plants in Western countries that were completed, but operation was delayed because in some cases, there wasn't enough basic technician skills to run the plants. And I was in another country where they were proud to talk about a university program that they have for training nuclear engineers. And the question I asked is, do you have any technical schools where you certify basic technician skills, the people who are going to run this plant on a day-to-day basis? And the answer goes, oops, that's a good idea. I haven't actually thought about that. So these are the types of things we do. We draw attention to our state parties, to any gaps that they may have in their capacity building programs in preparation for introducing nuclear power. And when we do these types of benchmarking related to education, we also look elsewhere around the world to see what best practices we can adopt and share with our state parties. One education model that has impressed me is the German education system. In my country, in my home country, we prioritize standard university education, and we minimize, technical school education. Electricians and plumbers and people like that are less respected than people who have bachelor's degrees and master's degrees. But in the technology business in which we are involved, I'm not saying that higher education is not important. It is very important because that is necessary to conceptualize the program and to step in when there are problems and to guide the program. But the plans need to operate in order to bring the socio-economic benefits, and those come largely from basic technician competences. In the German system that I mentioned, when children are around the ages of 11, 12, 13, they identify immediately those that are going to follow the academic line and those that are going to follow the technician line, and what types of technical skills. So they don't have a situation where, you start deciding in your 20s that you want to be a certified joiner or certified electrician or things like that. From the age of 12, by the time you're 22, you are a master and you can be trusted to safely work in a high technology environment where attention is needed to little things. And especially now, a country like Uganda looking to introduce nuclear power in the next few years, I think this would be the time to start training these basic skills, making them important, celebrating them so that the people who are engaged in those activities have pride in what they're doing. And when the time comes, when the reactor arrives, there are people on the ground ready to operate it. This is the time to start sending young people to the facilities of the vendor, to start working there, so that they will hit the ground running in 7-8 years' time when the plant is ready to operate. This is the time to start looking at supply chains, to start creating opportunities for local industry to develop what is needed for those supply chains, to start training people to gain the skills that would be needed to supply parts and components and services and maintenance for these plants when they eventually get here. So we try to collect information when we have discussions with partners. We do research online, and we read things. And when we have meetings with our state parties, or we have opportunities to have discussions or interactions with people, especially at policy-making level, we share these experiences with them. We share these ideas. We try to influence how they should organize education in their countries in order to be able to sort of support in an optimum way their nuclear programs. In South Africa, where our office is based, we are currently engaging with senior management at NECSA, the South African Nuclear Energy Corporation, as well as professors at Wits University, to introduce a curriculum for nuclear to start building competences and skills in areas, nuclear-related areas that would support the advancing nuclear program in South Africa, but also throughout the continent, because the idea would be to bring students from elsewhere. I mentioned that one of the aspects in our portfolio is nuclear non-proliferation and disarmament. So how do we benchmark that area? There's a requirement in our treaty that state parties would report to AFCONE on an annual basis on their nuclear activities. Not all countries are reporting at the moment. We are working to get everyone to report. But for those countries that are reporting, we can compare the reports of different countries. We can see where one is stronger than the other. And on the basis of that, we can share the information and help those countries that are weak to be stronger. We try to sort of connect countries so that one country can help the other. We also have a self-assessment questionnaire that we send out to countries for them to assess themselves, on how well they are meeting their obligations under, say, safeguards agreements with the IAEA and under the Treaty of Pelindaba. And on the basis of these self-assessments and other information that we collect from our partners, we provide input into designing training courses for safeguards. Recently, we concluded an arranged MOU, let's say, with the European Commission to build capacity in safeguards implementation in Africa. So we are doing this in cooperation with the Radiation and Nuclear Safety Organization in Finland, STUK. STUK has many years of experience in building capacity on safeguards. In AFCONE, we also have people with experience implementing international safeguards. So together we are coming with over half a century of experience in this field, and we are leveraging all those experiences to design a capacity building program that is fit for purpose for African countries. And we are hoping that this capacity building program, which is going to be launched in Pelindaba the week of the 8th of May this year, will become a model for building capacity on non-proliferation and disarmament in Africa. Lastly, I want to say that I've had the opportunity to meet people in this conference that have years of experience in building capacity and providing training in the nuclear energy field. And we have made it a priority to engage with these people after this conference, to work with them to gain from their experience in order to do the best that we can for our African state parties in terms of building capacity and getting the countries ready to, let's say, gain the maximum benefits from these nuclear power plants that they're going to acquire, to build capacity for African countries to be able to operate the plants themselves, to maintain the plants themselves, to service the plants themselves. This is our ultimate goal with regard to training and capacity building. That is why we are benchmarking things at the political level, at the technical level, legislative, and so on and so forth. So thank you very much for your attention. If I've missed anything, or if then you can sort of add to what I've said or ask any questions. And if I can answer, I will. If I can't, I can point at some people in the audience who may be better positioned to answer the questions. Thank you. If there are no questions, I'll go back to my seat.